fraud plan. First, I ran that 2 springs ago and got first time.
Maybe I do this.
Oh, I hear something now.
You do? Okay. But is the lag, which one was it?
Probably go back to that.
Design the online section and one's got the data on. I'm like not learning.
No, that is good. I know a handful of names in that class, and it's the ones that took my micro and spring. So it's my second semester. That's the only reason I don't think. No, it is hard. That is a hard part, but I think back to all those semesters when I would do back-to-back lectures for the exact same content. And then that makes it. So it's got, yeah, plus and minus for sure.
You know, I actually. Anyone that's.
Oh, it's ridiculous, but it's not as ridiculous. as
Yeah.
all-
Yeah, so far.
It's
It did. Before it was hard.
And it's one thing.
Two days. Right.
There is no one there. It is dead. Oh, I don't even tell now. We had the same conference. So the design break.
Unless you like doing more, maybe work recording the sounds, like usually class is full. They never started at 5:30. Ended at 8, so that I got home at 9:30.
Yeah.
Now it starts at 6, ends at 8:30, so that I get home at 10.
So Newton is changing their time too.
5:30 starts at 6.
I was told, well, see, but we always do. We've been doing for years now. So we've been doing a Monday at 9, which I don't have to tell you stuff about. Also, so now I have. Now I can't just, but you know what? I'll push back. So Sal's been doing it. And every Monday at 9. Yeah, every Wednesday at 9. I said it's not me. I can just make it. So I got my schedule. I'm not putting it out now. I'm gonna go eat more.
What's going on? Oh, so. And we should have decided designated a proxy.
He said.
I almost asked.
Next time, just shoot me an email.
Okay, it's also,
Okay.
they're gonna eat pie, they're gonna.
I mean it, next time, shoot me an email. If I'm here, you're here.
You already helped me out one time with that situation.
I
I gotta pick up somebody else.
Yeah, because. Yeah, I've done it.
I went to Mordor and back for no reason.
Yeah. It was cold. We were together.
One of us kind of picked up that.
The only thing I didn't do is
But we were in TLC.
my first phone.
So we went all the way over.
Where the, I don't mind going from my house, where I am in Fairfield, we may have a house for 5 minutes more when we get to the news. Monday morning. Well, I was just thinking that.
All right, everyone. Thank you for being here. We're going to go ahead and get started with the roll call.
Here.
Boyd. Brock. Here. Brian.
Here.
Suzanne. Here. Chen. Here. Polly.
Here,
Council.
on proxy, Kenneth Holman for Morris Council.
Dyer.
Here.
Elias. Ellison.
Here.
Elman. Fawcett. Fleming.
Here.
Green. Here. Griffin.
Here.
Hadley.
Here.
Hildebrand.
Here.
Hopper.
Here.
Ivory.
Here.
Jansen.
Here.
Kazane. Han.
Here.
Pembroke.
Here.
Kujats.
Here.
Maggiano.
Here.
Matthews.
Present.
Mendes. Moon. Here. Okoye.
Here.
Peralta.
Here.
Riker.
Here.
Moon.
Here.
Roberts.
Here.
Ruffin. Here. Song. Under.
Here.
Bichignano.
Here.
Swift.
Here.
Talbot.
Here.
Viswanath.
Present.
Webb.
Here.
Wentz. Here. Yang. Yes. Yarborough. Yay. Here. Zot.
Here.
Thank you.
All right, thank you all for finding us over here. If you've been around for a while, you know this is our old room. Plan A is to have this up in Richards as much as possible, but that's not always possible. So thanks for making the hike over here, more than the hike. And minutes have been approved electronically as normal, so appreciate that. And we'll go ahead and dive into our discussion with leadership, starting at their discretion with either the provost or the president.
Thank you. I guess it's good afternoon. Lose track of time. I've had an opportunity to get around and visit most of the colleges. I see a lot of familiar faces, some even as early as this morning. And so I think with some, I think maybe just the humanities is the only one that I haven't visited yet. But hopefully I'll get there here soon. I'll check with Tina, who manages, of course, my life. But I just wanted an update, much like the last time, is I always like to give a federal kind of look at state and then local, and then of course anything impacting the university. But as you know, we're still in the federal stalemate regarding the budget. And so we continue to watch that. Luckily, we're sort of in this interim period for our students, so we don't see a lot of impact from a financial aid thing. But the longer this goes on, of course, the more that does, and what concessions each side has to make, and that impact may change. Clearly, we don't have a huge research portfolio, so of course that's not impacting a huge piece of that. But we do have some, and so as they look to bill and work with the federal government on that piece, that'll change. And then lastly, no legislation is happening, so we're not visiting the DC space and talking with our local delegations offices and whatnot on some of the stuff. I know that we had some stuff with Congressman Jack just on some infrastructure issues here, some small dollars to help with some drainage sinkhole issues that we had in Love Valley. And so of course, that's all kind of on halt until this gets settled out. Moving to the state level, as you know, we're getting closer to the start of the legislative session. You have a lot of your various elected leaders transitioning or vying for other spots in the administration, from Attorney General to Lieutenant General and obviously Governor. I was at the Arnold dinner down in Newnan. I think it's called Arnold dinner. Last night, Governor was there. A lot of representatives there had an opportunity to talk with them, talk with the governor. He had great things to say about his time visiting campus when I believe his daughter was a graduate. And so, you know, we of course offered for him to come back and see campus. I think it's always good to get our elected officials on campus to see, you know, the space, our infrastructure, our buildings, so that way when we're asking for dollars to remodel or rehabilitate buildings, they understand some of the infrastructure that we're dealing with. But it was a great conversation. Newnan community, very supportive of our off-site instructional campus and wanting to do more work there. I'll tell you that part of that conversation, what I had with them about growing that campus, is that I think it has to be very deliberate, primarily because I don't want to bleed enrollment from the main campus at the expense of growing the instructional offsite. But I do think there's opportunities there. Clearly Piedmont is down there, which creates a unique challenge with our nursing school being named after Tanner Health. And so, but you know, how can we create some opportunities for another organization to get involved or financially support those students that are down in that space? Locally, of course, you know, if you're not following our athletic program, we play tomorrow. We were undefeated. There was a time, but we're currently 5-2. And so I think that's still a good position for our college football program, second year D1 athletics. You know, as I remind the coach when I've spoken with him, you know, every game is a new spin in the roulette wheel. You know, just because you had a perfect season up to that point, you know, that's the past, and tomorrow's game is a new game. But we also have 14 other NCAA sports going on. We have volleyball, golf, and other soccer that are occurring. So I encourage you, if you don't get out there to spend that. I think as far as enrollment, we finally locked in on census date. I think we're around 16,079. Is that right? So I think that's really good for us when you think about how we make money. Of course, we get the immediate tuition dollars of those students enrolling, and then we get the formula funding from the state, which is paid out 2 years down the road. So of course, that sets us up, you know, financially to be able to continue to reinvest into the organization. Obviously, I've talked with the HR, the provost, about how we can trickle down some of that to look at compensation studies. I will say studies because the system is doing that. But how we can bring cost of living and other things up to market. So we recognize that's an issue. We'll continue to make sure that we're investing in our most precious resources. And then lastly, we had the board meeting this week. We didn't really have a whole lot of things on the agenda, but I think the university is set up well. The system is constantly asking questions about how we're doing things, you know, good relationships with the board. And so we were at Georgia State for this particular visit, which was interesting just to have conversations with them about some of their success and their National Institute for Student Success and conversations on that. But that's general what's going on. I did meet with the Maple, and I have another meeting I think next week on the Maple Drive project, as well as renovation or rehabilitation, something. And I get put on a committee. But I will tell you that I know they're planning to build some houses up where there's a community center probation office right on Maple Street that they're going to, a developer owns that property. They're going to convert that space, I think, is a restaurant, so they're gonna build some retail space, condos above it. And then in the back, there's a bunch of land that they're going to build approximately 20 single-family homes in the 200,000, 300,000 price range. So kind of probably not what we would consider a starter home, but for today's people, that would be considered a starter home. And so that'll create some for obviously the school district as well as new faculty and staff that are moving to the area for them. That continues conversations about just the need for more homes in the area. Of course, the city is landlocked, the amount of space that they have, unless they annex stuff in the county, doesn't really seem to want to expand, placing more impact onto their infrastructure. And then with regards to the Maple Street project, so there's the $9 million, I think, grant is creating a or not cul-de-sac, a roundabout at the Hill Maze Road. I know that project is ongoing, and I should get an update next week about that. But I continue to have conversations about our community, about what we could do to make sure that Maple Street, it looks great coming from the Birches onto campus, but as you come the other direction, what we could do to just clean up the area. So beyond enforcing some of the codes and whatnot, which of course the way that works is they give you a citation, you need to mow your yard. They have 30 days to cure that citation. And if they do, then they just don't mow their yard again and get another thing. It's just an ongoing process. So our neighbors across the street who throw up, toga parties and gooseneck trailers and whatnot, there's certain limitations on how much of that we condone, but obviously how much of that, we would like them to, clean up their space. And then last night I did a ride along with the police department here on campus. I encourage you, if you don't ever get a chance to do that, you should. It's an interesting thing. It was stayed out till about 12:30. I kind of just rode around, and of course we don't have as many students on campus, but Greeks had some stuff down in Greek Village. They had a fire, which I didn't really think was allowed, but according to our student life, they can, as long as it's a burn pit, but it's a pretty large fire. Right next to one of our buildings, so, I was like, let's go check on that fire again. But again, I had a great conversation with our police officers, just talked about my viewpoint on law enforcement on the college campus, and really about community policing. It's about creating a safety net for our young adults, making sure, really the most important thing is getting them back to their residence halls and safely on their campus. And so police officers have a wide amount of discretion, and no way do I want to influence how they utilize that discretion, because obviously some things are more serious than others. But I observed, at least in that small window, a lot of traffic stops for not having front headlights on, to rolling stop signs. Almost, every example that I observed was just a warning, be more careful. And I think that's just making sure that, hey, there are students walking across crosswalks and people making a right-hand turn and yielding stop signs. We had wasn't a student, but we had a citizen that was struck and broke their ankle at the beginning of the semester. And so, those were real viable concerns. But if you get a chance, I encourage you to do that, because one, I think the more the community is involved with the police officers, you get to see what they do, and of course you get to understand a little bit more about what they see on campus. And my understanding is homecoming is next week, so it gets pretty crazy. So I couldn't believe it, but they were saying that people drive up from Florida to attend homecoming that aren't even students or former students or any connection to the university, is just a party. So I've driven long distances for a lot of reasons, but never just to go to a party. But hopefully that'll be a good time. So with that, I answer any of your questions that I can.
Could you speak a little bit of UWG's participation in the Commission for Public Higher Education new accreditation body that's being formed in the South?
Yeah, so this new, everyone hear that question? So as you know, we are currently accredited by SATS. That is our regional accredited body. And one of the things that came up was a push for new accrediting agencies. Florida had passed legislation, I suppose, basically mandating that they be reaccredited by different bodies. And so part of that was they were kind of correct me if I'm wrong, were kind of the leaders in creating this. Georgia and some other states signed on to that as kind of interested or early adopters of it. My understanding coming out of the board meeting is that President Mark Becker, who was at Georgia State, who left that position and went to APLU, one of our trade organizations, the Association of Public Land Grant Universities, who he has since left that position, had agreed to serve on the committee for this new accrediting body, and then he agreed to chair that committee. So he is leading that. But we are, I'll say, years from it coming into actual fruition as they explore the whole accreditation process. Of course, it has to get signed off by whatever the version of the Department of Education would be in order to be a regionally accredited body from the financial aid perspective. And if the question is UWG is being mandated to be a part of this, I'm not aware of any of that at this moment. I haven't had any conversations. I've been here 75 days. The provost, may have been aware of a conversation that happened prior to my arrival. But, I think that obviously there will have to be some people that will start going into the process and, but I know that the chancellor has been very vocal about, our partnership with SACS, that we're, proud members of that organization, that we support it. This is just another accrediting body. But I do think that, there are pieces of some of the accreditation, not necessarily just SACS, but across the United States, whether that's Western or whatever, that had some specific language in their accreditation processes that institutions were required to do that didn't necessarily agree with some state policies. And that was a huge driver in that. Is there something I missed on that? No, I think you're straight on. Did that answer your question?
So if it does come to the point where we would have to choose, who actually takes this decision about what accreditation body we participate in?
I would imagine the USG, since they're our governing board.
And then this is hypothetical with this. What would be our course when we're years down the road if any of the standards, and I've been reading it, if any of the standards or requests from this body actually contradicts or goes against any of our special professional accreditation, like
ABET.
Or NASAD, or if there's kind of contradiction, will the USG set up, it's hypothetical, would they set up possibly a way to find agreement, find a way that?
I mean, I can't speculate on what might be or whatnot. I mean, of course, obviously, our regional accrediting body would be the most important accreditation because that's what gives us access to federal financial aid and other things. And we would work with our discipline-specific accrediting body, which many of them, we wouldn't be the only state or organization that would be a part of this. Again, there's many states that are interested in this other accrediting piece that allow them to begin adapting, certain language in their pieces. So again, I can't speculate on unknown, what we would do at that moment in time. We'd have to deal with that and kind of work through those problems as they came up as an issue. But hopefully we would know, or people that serve on those accrediting things would get a heads up, like, hey, this is something that's going to be in conflict. And hopefully people like President Becker would say, okay, hey, these are issues, how would we deal with that? No different than SACS or any of the other ones they're dealing with those issues. Any other questions?
No,
Sure.
more than anything, it's a suggestion. In a couple of different venues, I've heard you speak about your personal experience, growing up in a small town in Florida, along 27. I think that's a great story. And I think given the composition, the demographic composition of our students, most of whom come from, I would say probably similar backgrounds as yours. I think they would find that inspiration. I think they need to know that. They need to hear that. They need to see themselves because a lot of them are struggling to sort of see that end of the road or like that you know, successful president of a university came from a small town. I think that's a very powerful story that you probably need to share with students when you meet with them, because I think a lot of them would like to hear that. I say that specifically because I talk to my students frequently about public opinion and things like that, and often they talk about their own struggles, how much they're struggling, you know, in school, at work, to stay motivated. And I think somebody who, you know, came from your background, was a Marine who had lived that, you know, certain kind of life. I think that story would probably resonate a lot with them. I think I would recommend that you actually share it with them as much as you can.
Appreciate that.
No, I think,
Oh,
please go. I already asked the question. Unrelated to everything. But I was recently speaking with some staff members. I know this is faculty senate, but I was getting the sense that staff had an expectation to, I think, interact with you a bit more than they have with previous leadership. And they weren't saying it was a problem. And they were like, we respect his leadership style, but there were some that were saying they maybe hadn't felt that they had had the same access to you as faculty had. And so I wanted to share that since I had the opportunity.
I appreciate
Yeah.
My time is always pulled in 1,000 directions.
Yes.
I have a lot of constituents.
I understand.
So, but no, I'll make an effort to get around.
So we spoke last meeting about academic freedom. Are we going to get a statement, or if I could inquire upon an update about that? I think we spoke about getting a written statement in regards to academic freedom, if I remember correctly.
I don't remember saying I was gonna write a statement.
No, not you, but
I thought, did you send some stuff?
I did, and sent it to Dylan, who sent it to the group.
oh, I'm sorry.
So I pointed specifically to USG policy and due process, you know, the protections that faculty have.
My
So
apologies,
if we need to resend that out, or I'm happy to discuss one-on-one if there's still questions about that.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Talking about your ride along with the police, question came up during the week about active shooter the training events, and I have faculty been asking about issues about whether the university has plans to make grades training available at least to faculty or students. Yeah,
I'm not, what is crazed during?
it's civilian response to active shooter events. We had a training yesterday with the university police and the College of Education as a faculty, and the police personnel suggested that it's an important training. I didn't know much of the information we provided, and
Yeah.
he said it should be something the university should consider.
Well, as you know, you always have lots of mandatory training. I don't want to add another thing to your list, but I know that the police department, based off of your department, is more than happy to come give one-on-one instruction on, you know, how to engage, you know, with an active shooter environment from, you know, there's the analogy, hide, you know, block, fight. You know, every window's a door, you know, type thing. So I can certainly talk to the chief about making that more aware, so that people know like it's an option to come, you know, during your break or whenever you have the downtime to have the instruction. Okay, thank you.
Afternoon, everybody. I'm going to start off, as I always do, by saying thank you for what you do.
This agenda on today's docket shows that we continue to add and innovate and improve. The Science, Technology, Society, and Philosophy, the Interdisciplinary Studies and Gaming. I'm going to sign up for those classes or teach them myself. Love that idea. In addition, we've got the Construction Management, and don't let my compliments bias your vote on these in any way. I just want to point out that in every different college and school, in every academic program, you all are maintaining that currency and that relevance that's so important to the success of UWG. We are also about halfway through the term, just after midterms here. Engagement reports and enrollment and feedback to students. Kudos to all of that good work that you're doing. The end is closer than we know, right? We'll be doing final grade reports before we know it. And the weather is starting to become crisp and good football weather and all of that. So again, just thank you for what you do. Appreciate your time, not only as faculty and leaders, but also on Faculty Senate. Got a couple of updates that I want to share with you. First, on behalf of ITS, Kirk Inman couldn't be here today, celebrating a 32-year retirement out of ITS, so appropriate that they're doing that. But want to talk about telephony and phone updates. We've been talking about this for some time. I've been advocating for change for really over 4 years and updating our systems. So Teams and all of that calling is there, but there's two pieces that I want you to hopefully take away today and take back to your departments and your colleagues in faculty and staff. One is that if you need a line that calls in and out and receives in and out, you will still have that. We did an analysis and there were, I think, 500 plus lines that had received less than a dozen calls or sent a dozen calls. So we've got a lot of deadlines. People have moved on, retired, whatever the case may be. And we just don't need to be paying for that. In particular, Avaya is doing cost escalation, our current telephone provider, and we are going to save 7+ figures quite easily just by doing business different and moving to Ring Central. So behind the scenes, all of that is happening. It's like the duck on water. Hopefully at the top, it's smooth sailing. You won't see any impact, but underneath ITS on the back end systems are paddling quite feverishly, trying to make those changes and avoid us getting hit with those costs. So Avaya to Ring Central, but if you need a phone and you need that line in and out, you can keep that. If you don't need to be making calls in and out, we'll still have a line, the same number. It'll just be for within UWG calls. And so there are some cases where that makes sense. Additionally, we have the soft phone capability. So your laptop, your desktop, you can use Teams and make calls there. I'm already double clicking on people's icons and doing that myself in my office, trying to, train myself to not be on the handset per se. But if you want that handset, you will have that and you can keep that. Those are two separate things, whether you need the line in and out versus the interface that you've got for it. And then additionally, if you don't want the handset, but you want to use your computer and you want the headset, ITS will have an opportunity for you to come by, try out a couple of different models and say, yeah, that's the one that I want. And then we will provide that to you, not at cost to your department. So I know that that's been a debate historically. We're not going to gut your operating costs and your professional dollars, professional development dollars to buy these handsets. That's just equipment that should be off the top out of ITS. So that's the update on ITS. Phones, happy to dive into any of that, but the other ask that I've made of ITS is that they are not going to come in anyone's office and update, flash the I call it a computer. It's a phone. It's shaped like a phone, but it's really a computer these days, right? Voice over IP and all. They're going to schedule all of that, and there's going to be a comms plan to let you know that that's coming. So no one's coming in and out of the office. They will coordinate that with you, and they will not interfere with your prep, your class prep, your scholarship, your office hours, whatever that may be. So watch for that, but my not just ask, but requirement of them is that that's as least disruptive as possible to you. You'll notice the graphic changes. It's a different look on these small little displays on the phones, but that should be about it. I will warn you though that if you've got numbers saved in, like speed dial, if you've got some of those attachments, especially for the admin assistants across the institution, that stuff gets wiped out. I was the guinea pig in my office, so I'm passing that on so that people don't incur that extra work. You can archive that before they do the updates there. Also want to give you an update that the facilities improvement requests, the FERS as they're called, are quarterly. So whatever had been put in prior to the beginning of October is being reviewed. And please, if you see something, say something. I walk around campus and just take a quick photo. Anybody been on the north side of Humanities and see that metal cut? Have you seen this? Good, I'm glad you're not hurt by it, but it's like something hit that metal facade there on the north side, the north entrance of the Humanities building, and took a picture, sent it to Cherie. You can do the same to me. I'll get it to facilities, or you can just put that. There's a difference between an immediate request like that for a safety consideration versus I need ADA accessibility requirements in the Townsend Center, for example. So we're renovating that and we're making the box office there ADA compliant and just better interface for customers in Townsend. So we've got both tiers of that. These FERS go in quarterly and are reviewed. So if you see something, say something, immediate need, but also if you've got facilities improvements. I was in College of Ed yesterday and some of the hung ceiling was kind of coming down a bit. That should be a quick fix from a safety perspective. That's different than we need to replace the carpet in Nursing 106. So just want you to be aware. And as your colleagues and peers are out there saying, oh, this classroom looks a little run down, we need to improve, we need to swap the desks, we need to paint. That's all part of our public image, and I hope that you'll pass these on. Census was last Wednesday. This isn't a State of the University address, but I do want to give you an update as we do every semester about our numbers. The president mentioned just over 16,000 in enrollment. That's up 11.65% year over year. So we're looking for that trophy. We're going to reclaim that from the chancellor, hopefully next month. But specifically, new undergraduate first-time, full-time is up nearly 13%. That's huge. Our DE is up, and that pipeline, as we've been presenting to the chancellor and the system office for a number of years, our winning move is to increase our engagement in local high schools, get them on campus. As soon as they are on campus, that conversion rate is pretty significant. They come through the BAFA lab, they come through the Humanities building. A friend of the family recently did a tour of Humanities and the Visual Arts building, and they immediately decided UWG is the place, even though they've been looking at 2 or 3 others, just because of that presentation that we have. So that's fantastic. Graduate, of course, still growing like the weed that it is. That's awesome. It's like kudzu, it's everywhere, up 14.5. But then undergrad, which we've been hard fought in the past, is up over 10% year over year. We've got our friends from SEM and the analytics and all the quants that they're looking at these numbers and really focusing not just generically on how are we recruiting, but very specifically high school by high school. What kind of engagements do we have? Dr. Smith and I were talking earlier this week about Superintendent North making the claim that Douglas is the largest feeder into UWG. Now that can be interpreted 2 ways. It's either the largest district that feeds into UWG, or they are sending more than any other district to UWG. We want to make sure there's parity there. So if you are the largest district, you are giving us the largest number of those students. And where we see pockets of improvement and growth, and well, how come we're not catching as many students out of this area or into these majors? We're addressing that very specifically. The idea of just casting the net blankly, we need to get very focused and say, here's what we're doing in these particular majors. Why are you coming and studying in DCEPS? Why are you coming and studying in anthropology? Why are you coming and studying in nursing specifically? And speak directly to each of those different interests in students. So we're upping our game in that, and it is paying off well. But it's not just getting the students here, it's also keeping them here. So happy to also report that year over year retention is up just over 1%. So we've been steadily increasing that across the last 7 years. We're up to just about 77.5%, I think. Correct me, I might be rounding. The SEM folks get it down to like the thousandths place. Very precise in that analysis. But every one of those students that we hold on to not only makes a difference in their progression, but also in their family's financial trees and in their family's ability to engage in citizenry. So that is not just numbers on a page, that's changed lives. We've also found we're looking at GPA, high school GPA entrance, as well as the modality. And students report anecdotally. I think the president had a meeting with Dr. Fortune yesterday with about 20 students, and they're hungry for that on-campus experience, asking for more of that. So I know Dylan passed on to me a request to talk about Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and on-campus engagement. I'm going to still push for that first time, excuse me, we're talking about first time, full time, but face-to-face. That's huge. And yes, there are different areas. Different students have different needs. So we can have some hybrid, we can have some Tuesday, Thursday, we can have some Monday, Wednesday, we can have some Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But specifically about that Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I know this question came up about, who's defining the schedule. We're looking at best practices and comparing to Kennesaw and Southern, who offer, I think, 24, 28% of their classes on that Monday, Wednesday, Friday versus Tuesday, Thursday. We're at 16%. So we are not, high in that regard. We've started to add that. And specifically, it's for those students that are on campus in the dorms with a meal plan. We're calling it Project 909 to automatically enroll those students into their spring classes. If they want to change it, that's fine. That's great. And we will add new sections, remove sections. But these students are on campus. They've expressed that they want to be here. And talking with Dr. Fortune earlier today, reporting on activity, we are up on Friday, moving from 500 student engagements to 1,000 students that are engaged on Fridays. On Saturdays, led by this great football team and other activities planned, we've gone from 1,000 students engaged to 1,500 students engaged on Saturdays. So we're still early in this strategy, but it's paying off. There are metrics that are showing progress. That doesn't mean we're not going to meet the needs of the online students, in particular those grad students that are working, or the students that can only come on certain days or a few days a week. We're still going to offer hybrid. We're going to still offer online. But one of the questions that came up that you passed on to me was, what problem are we trying to answer? It's access, it's engagement. You heard Ashwani, interim president, a year ago talking about the perception of the system office and the chancellor about, are we a campus that has a vibrant on-campus experience, or is it commuter? Is it transactional? And so part of that is perception of the system office and addressing what they have charged us with as a regional comprehensive with dorms and housing. And his comment a year ago was, well, if we're fully online, buildings and the need for the people is diminished. So there's all kinds of dimensions to why are we leaning into this. First and foremost, it's engagement, it's presence, it's placemaking. And since COVID, we've talked long about morale and disengagement. Being on a screen is that transactional. And I would say that not for all markets, for those students that want that face-to-face, pushing them into that leads them to that disengagement. Statistically, students that participate on campus have a 10-point higher graduation rate than those that are fully online. And for those that make it from that first to second year, if we can hold on to them, and part of that is that stickiness of being able to meet with you all in your offices and have that casual conversation after class, or that support that you see, something's just off while they're in class and you reach out to them. If we can hold students from first to second year, that average graduation rate goes up by 17 points. So it's front loading that makes a huge difference. So all of these activities at Provost Council, so you asked me, what's the strategy? The overall strategy is, and it's borne out in all of these different campaigns that we're running, but the overall strategy is, how do we meet multiple markets and yet lean in on those that we can influence the most dramatically with that on-campus presence? Monica, correct me. Years ago, we were admitting 2,200 first-time full-time, right? That was our cohort size. And this goes back to pre-consolidation with KSU and Southern Poly. There's all kinds of reasons why that might have shifted. We have hard fought to get that back up to plus 1,500 this fall. And I believe because of our DE and because of our engagement and these innovations that you're doing in curricula, we're going to see that get back up there. So that's the broader strategy that we're employing. Last, I want to close with my compliments to humanities. Yesterday, if you didn't get a chance to go by the the campus center, I encourage you to connect with the humanities undergraduate research. Day was just phenomenal. Got to experience just a taste of that. Of course, that leads into lore and other elements, but those students had just fantastic presentations. They were delving into these really great topics and had breakout sessions. Dr. Rodriguez from Georgia Tech was the keynote speaker. Just a phenomenal job to our humanities colleagues. But that's just one sample, and it was a brilliant sample, but it's one sample of the great work that goes on across all of our colleges and schools. So I'll end where I began to say thank you for what you do. It's unique, it's impactful, it's amazing, and more student enrollment, retention. Students want what you all are doing. They want majors, they want to be at UWG, and that's a great place to be. Happy to dive into any of that or anything else that you've got in mind and take any questions. Yes.
I had a question about the telephony issues. Or
Yes. Phones.
Phones.
That's the $5 word for phone.
Phones and stuff. So for example, in anthropology, we would like to have one of our outside lines maintained. Who do we tell that and when? Is there like a deadline for like making decisions like that for each of us as faculty? Or then what about programmatically?
So the good news is if a phone gets turned off, we can turn it back on immediately.
Okay.
It's not a one-way street. Those data about utilization on a per line basis went out to the deans a month or so ago. So if you've got a line that hadn't been used and we're going to stop paying for it or we're going to park it, it doesn't go away. It's not like your cell phone when you turn that line in, somebody else grabs it. We'll hold on to the numbers, right? We've got the exchange. So please reach out to your dean. They had the spreadsheet of here are all of the lines within CHAPS, for example.
Okay.
And then if there's an error or they said, oh, the Baffle Lab had a line and you want to hold on to that and they marked it as don't need it because it only had 5 calls.
Yeah, I remember we sent out like a preference, but I didn't know if that was like the last.
It was incorporated in, but if you want to amend that or you want to change it, even after it gets turned off, I mean, as many lines as we have, just statistically, and I hate that this is going to be the case, but there will be an error, right?
Right.
We can undo that
Okay,
very rapidly.
that's great. Thanks.
Yes.
My question is related to one of the first topics that President Johnson brought up with regarding Noonan. Obviously, there's some opportunities for growth there. And it seems, from my experience, which again, everyone's experience is going to be related to their structure of their program and their department that they're in or disciplinary area. It seems like programs are like told what they're offering, which I know like your bosses will do it, whatever. But could you just take a moment to explain a little bit how the schedules in Noonan get created? And then also comment on, or maybe we could just think of ways that we could increase communication down to the faculty who are then changing schedules to accommodate that. That makes
Yeah.
sense.
So Noonan, the question was around Noonan and scheduling classes in space. Noonan's still got one section of Warm Shell that we haven't built out yet. And it's going to cost us about $1 million to finish out that full build out. So I say that at the beginning because Noonan is packed to the gills right now, happily, right? It's a great location. If you haven't ever taught down there, put it on your to-do list. It's phenomenal. Rebecca and the team down there, we've had a tremendous growth in dual enrollment coming out of Coweta County, just like we have here on this campus and online. So part of the challenge of flipping and moving classes is just space limitation, as well as that increased need for gen ed dual enrollment. And yes, it comes at a cost. If you were teaching an Earth and Environmental Sciences class there and it needed to be bumped from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., likely that was a DE impact, right? Because the morning is really, really full. But what I'm also hearing in your question is, can we communicate? Can we coordinate around that? And part of it is immediate need, and that's just tough, and we'll do what we can. But I'm going to take homework back to Rebecca and say, as we have need, how is that being communicated not only to the program coordinators and the deans, but also the faculty that are impacted? So you're not surprised, right?
Yeah.
You're planning for one thing and all of a sudden, 2 days later, I mean, unfortunately, or I should say fortunately, because of growth, we might need to pivot quickly. But I hope we get enough runway to do that without as much disruption and surprise.
Yeah, and it'd be great to work with them too. I mean, I'm sure they're developing projections for a year out.
Yes.
So it'd be great if we're not finding out 6 months, but thank you.
And then the other side of that is we've got growth opportunities in Noonan on a disciplinary basis. So clearly nursing, gen ed dominate that. But if you see opportunity, Frere was there. I know that's changed based on, green energy locally as well as nationally. Frere and, the chemistry and the physics that we were going to be partnering there, that might have changed some. But if you see opportunity in the region to say, we want to deliver earth and environmental sciences, we want to deliver business at night, executive MBA, please share that with me, with your dean. If we want to do something that's very focused, then that's absolutely on the table. Another good example of that, and we need to expand into Douglas County, get back into Douglas County physically. Superintendent North and that area is interested in computing. So our CS and our computing might offer the ability to take the entire major there in Douglas. We could do the same thing in Noonan as well. Don't want to draw students away from Carrollton, but if it complements, if it grows the pie rather than fighting over slices of the pie, then we can absolutely do that. And I'm looking to you all as leaders in your respective areas to see that. I mean, I've got my perspective, but you all are probably better attuned to that. And I'm very happy to hear what you see as possible. Yes.
So I brought this up earlier, but not in this meeting. Monday, Wednesday, Friday classes.
Yeah.
One of the things I've had faculty express concerns to me about, so I'll share with you, is that with Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you increase the number of courses or number of class meetings. More class meetings you have, the more opportunities for students to miss. And my concern is many of our students work, they get pinned in, having to be here Friday, having to be here Monday. Now they only have the weekend. It limits their ability to work. So I don't want to say that I think Monday, Wednesday, Friday courses are a bad idea because I don't have the data. So what I was going to suggest is, could we collect DFW rates on Monday, Wednesday, Friday classes compared to their Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday courses? 2, I look at attendance rates. I've asked the faculty in my department who are teaching Monday, Wednesday, Friday to keep very strong attendance. And 3, I would like, can we do student opinion data on Monday, Wednesday, Friday so that we can see? And one of my concerns is, freshmen, so many of our students are first time, they don't know necessarily what's best for them. So you say, well, take a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, it's fine. Okay. And then they start missing classes and they fall behind. Now, if the data proves I'm wrong, that's great. But I would like to see the data as we do this over the next year or so to support it or not to support it. I think that would be very useful.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a data wonk nerd myself. I welcome that. Let's look at it. Various studies will say there's either no impact on a 3-day a week or a 2-day a week. Some would say that micro engagement on a more regular basis increases student success. We can open that up, and if we want to form a group to look at those data, at the very least, and I'm passing this on to our SEM colleagues at IEA. Yeah, let's look at DFW rates. Let's look at whether it's attendance. That's pretty granular. If you all are recording that, fantastic. But I want to key in on a word that you said: they have to come, not they get to come. And I think that's part of our job in higher ed, is to set that stage for students. Yes, there's constraints. As a student who sometimes skipped my 8 a.m. Calc 3 class back in the day, I can relate. And I thought, oh, I'll just pick this up, next week, right? What are we doing to, on our end to discourage them skipping? If it is a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or even if it's a Tuesday, Thursday, they can skip Thursday, right? They can skip Friday. What are we doing to help students understand the importance of that in-present activity? And that's tough. I mean, especially 5 years ago in COVID when everything flipped. But many of you all in the room have been around doing this long enough to remember when nobody was online, right? And the system had to incentivize online courses. Faculty resisted that heavily. Now, the world has certainly changed in 15, 20 years, and people are, wanting different access all the time. I'm not on TikTok, even if it was illegal or not illegal. I don't know. I don't like 60-second content. I think that's too short. Is 50-minute content a sweet spot pedagogically? Can I cover that, or do I need 75? I welcome that conversation, and I think we should absolutely lean into that. We're only half a semester in. The engagement from the student affairs perspective is up, so I think that's a good thing. That was one of our priorities in Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We're trying to move away from this idea we're a suitcase campus and a ghost town on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So that's huge. And I personally believe that if we want to compete online for certain markets, that's fine. But as an institution, we've got to be here, or it's a race to the bottom, right? We're not Phoenix, we're not Western Governors. We've got amazing facilities. We've got that in-person experience that we need to lean into. And I think we can go from 1,500 to 2,200. We can get back up there. Students skipping class, why are they doing that? Happy to address that. That last piece, though, of survey, I think the Faculty Senate did that. We've got the records of that. I'm happy to revisit that on a regular basis. I think we should always be listening to our students, our customer. But at the same time, we don't ask them everything, right? We make decisions as the experts in the room. So I think there's a mix there of what are we constructing for their success? And then what are we saying, well, this is is this a spine issue or is this a rib issue? If it's a spine issue, we need to hold to that based on data and student success. If it's a rib issue, okay, we'll give on that. We'll have some flexibility. Ultimately, though, we are at a point in growth, especially for our gen ed, that we can offer the whole menu. We can offer Tuesday, Thursday. We can offer Monday, Wednesday. We can offer Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We can offer hybrid. We can offer online. And that's a healthy place to be. But new homework. Let's look at the data. And along that, we just were accepted into a national cohort through ASCU to look at student scheduling, student-centric scheduling work group. We're one of 20 institutions across the nation that have been invited to participate in that. That's actually a 2-year project. It goes through calendar year 27, and we're going to be addressing these very things. I'll be bringing back information from that. Dr. Smith and I are co-leading that, and we will have numerous opportunities to take the results and the best practices from that, debate it here. Just because it works somewhere else doesn't mean it's going to be a perfect fit here. So how do we make that work for the best here? Great point. Yeah, someone here, and then I'll come back to you. Yes.
As someone who teaches mostly first year writing, it's great to hear that the enrollment is going up for those first year classes. But I would like to ask you if you know of any immediate plans to start adding more faculty to Department of General Education. I'll say just a couple things. We're all on 4-4 loads, even the tenure track faculty, and then the new hires are ending up on 5-5 loads, and then there's always opportunity. I shouldn't say opportunity. Obligation, it feels like, to take overloads as well sometimes. So there's a lot of teaching happening in gen ed right now that folks are feeling a little spread thin. So I wondered if
Great point. You beat me to it. There's actually, I want to talk about QEP for a moment as well. I've got it in the notes, but I meant to get to this. You're beating me to it. Thank you. Tremendous growth. GE up, 500 students, first time, full time up. This demand, it's not like Field of Dreams with Kevin Costner. You don't build it and then they come and then you build it. That's just the tough. And so part-time, LTIs, overloads, that's that growth phase. But I've talked with the president about how do we take the LTIs that we hired this semester? How do we flip those to more long-term? How do we shift off of as many part-times and overloads? Because overload, according to the USG, should be sparingly, and it certainly shouldn't come at a cost of faculty well-being and ability to do promotion and tenure. So I'm acutely aware of that. And then looking at, speaking of projection, looking at where we'll be fall 26 and fall 27. And we shouldn't be doing last minute hires. You shouldn't find out in May, oh, hey, we need 10 more folks, right? So we need a longer runway for that, not just in first year math and English, but in all of our majors. So this is why SEM and AA are, Monica and I talk at least once a day about where are we going, and how do we plan for that. So I hear you, and I'm deeply committed to adding those resources based on growth. Great point. Following that over. Yep.
I have a lot of different things, but one thing to follow up on Anthony's suggestion of collecting data. And I've been teaching Friday classes for as long as I can remember, so I have a pretty good sense of, you know, who's around, who's not, and whatnot. Even during COVID, I taught Fridays if it was available. And I'm actually teaching a class Monday, Wednesday, Friday next spring. So if you want a guinea pig, just I'm here. I'll collect whatever data you want me to collect. I'll
Well,
run.
Project 909, we should have about 100 sections or more for Monday, Wednesday, Friday that we're building. So yeah, you and your sections as well as these others we'll be looking at.
But more importantly, what I would really like to see is what we have seen in other settings and at other times when, you know, this is why I was asking about the strategy, because to me, a strategy is a clear goal and it's measurable. And you, at constant period of, you know, points of time, you're constantly measuring and readjusting and thinking, what did we do right? Where are we going? Is the data supporting what we're doing? And if not, then how do we adjust it? It's not a matter of failure, it's a matter of learning.
Sure.
So that we can actually do better next time. And so what I would like to hear is, when are we going to actually see those results in you know, what kind of, you know, constant improvement process is in place now to assess the success, the, you know, effectiveness of all of these different things, because to me, that's all part of that strategy.
Yep.
Right. So to the extent possible, and again, I'd be happy to do a focus group in my class, which I actually do on a regular basis with my.
I remember you raising this, yeah, previously.
So
I'm the kind of person that turns on Apple Maps when I'm driving home, right? Because even though I know how to get home, there might be a wreck along the way or who knows what, right? So I completely agree with you. It's not a failure if we change. It's just, that's reality. That's being alive, right? We're constantly changing. So I just shared student engagement data with you. As far as student success data, we're measuring that every semester. So the DFWI attendance is granular, right? I mean, we can pull that from D2L if you're putting it in, but I think that's a bit of overkill. But DFW rates, student success rates, I just shared that students are 10% higher graduation rate if they're face-to-face versus online. So we're constantly looking at that, and I'll be reporting that to Faculty Senate every single semester. We're just half a semester into this new block schedule implementation. So we just don't have the data yet, but we absolutely will, and I'll absolutely share it. And if we've got students that are not doing well, then the question is why? Are they skipping? You know, is there something else going on? We'll absolutely look at that. Yes.
I actually had a question that's probably related to what you're talking about regarding sort of a pathway through to growth strategies from, you know, new, fresh bodies in our classes. As part of that, I think elsewhere there's a system where the principal lecturer position, or as a promotion possibility, offers that conduit sort of through to you know, a good foundation for our lecturers to move up and into more permanent and dedicated positions. Is there any plan here to put that concept forward or to develop that open promotion process towards a principal lectureship?
Absolutely. This was brought up. Help me.
So
Remind me, Dylan.
this is actually an active thing. Levi and I, who chairs the Faculty Affairs Committee, just met with about this. So it's the Faculty Affairs Committee has this. It's been through Provost Council. So this is something that we're actively working to.
That sounds like so.
Yeah, so I support it. I've seen it used successfully elsewhere. And if that gives us the ability, we've already socialized this with the system office. And we've got, it's USG policy. So it would be a matter of the Faculty Development Committee and how do we update P&T documents and so forth to support that. And I think we're in the process of that. So completely agree. Great point. Yes.
Back to the Monday, Wednesday, Friday classes. One of the trade-offs is with the block scheduling, we put it back at a 10-minute exchange period between the classes. I'm old enough that I remember when we went from the 8, 9, 10 to the 7:45, 8:50, et cetera, schedule. And one of the reasons we did that, as I remember, was this accessibility services was having students with mobility issues finding it difficult to get across campus in the 10-minute class period. Is there any coordination with accessibility services to make sure that the students with mobility issues can get to their classes?
Yeah, that's a great question. Facilities has the, transit times. And if there's unique needs, then, we'll certainly accommodate as required. That 10-minute differential is best practice, not just at UWG, but if we give more kind of dead time or transition time between classes, it erodes our ability to, unless you want to start teaching at 7 a.m. or, 9 p.m., we've got to be able to offer the classes in a way where already with PAFR down, even when that comes back on, growth projection, we're pressed for space. But from an accessibility, facilities takes that into account, and if there's an individual need, we will absolutely accommodate that.
I teach a 9 o'clock class in Boyd and then a 10 o'clock class Monday, Wednesday, Friday in the TLC. And that works as long as I don't need to turn on the technology, or if I have to restart a computer, my class time has just lost 5 minutes.
So my expectation is you just turn it on and it works. And I'll talk with the ITS. If you all are not experiencing that and there's an issue in a location, please put a ticket in or reach out to me personally and I'll make sure it gets taken care of. And then, yes, we've got fencing around Pafford. There might be some occlusion that keeps us from getting from place to place. I think we can do better in scheduling. It's an incredibly complicated issue, but if you're back to back, then let's hopefully move you in proximity. So you're not having to go from, one extreme to the other on campus. Nursing to Roy Richards Hall. Yes.
So I'd like to go back to retention numbers as well as graduation percentage. So 77% retention, that's pretty good. If I remember correctly, like the 73, if you're below 73%, you're not doing well in retention.
Yeah, and this is just first time, full-time cohort. Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, 77.
But speaking about retention in general, as well as graduation rates, we often have those conversations as separate conversations often. Is there data or is there going to be research that might generate data that gives us insight into why graduation rates might be lower and as opposed to having a higher retention rate? And what happens with that retention rate not paying off to higher graduation numbers?
Right. So it's to borrow from Saint-Exupéry, right? It's an elephant going through the snake, right? It takes time. We can have improvements in our retention today, and that's not going to pay off in graduation for 4 to 6 years. That said, we're not content with just throwing the towel in. We're also going after some credit, no degree. And we've got over 1,000 students that within the last 3 to 5 years have been here but didn't finish. So we've got, on the flip side, how are we going to reclaim those students and try to get them to completion? As far as, are we connecting these dots? They might be discrete as I'm mentioning them, but it's completely interconnected, right? A student that's retained from first to second year, graduation rate goes up by 17 points. Not surprising to anyone that can do math, and I know you can all do math. If I can retain you from the second to the third year, your graduation rate goes up, and so on, right? You'd be amazed at how high our graduation rate is for 6th-year students for the 6-year graduation rates, right? So that's just simple compounding math. The challenge is DFW and individual scenarios. And some of it we can influence, including block scheduling. If I can't get classes because there's a 15-minute overlap, and this is precisely what we were facing 2+ years ago, that friction occurring 100 different times is what ultimately leads students to not be retained and to graduate. And then some of it is way out of our control, but some of it is in that middle space. So what can we do to support? So we're looking at Sankey graphs. flowing from you started here, year 1, 2, 3. Did you change majors? Did you go through clearinghouse? Did you go to another USG institution or another place? I would claim the win if they graduated. Start here and graduate. Okay. Start here and finish here, even better. But we all have a role to serve, right? So it's the students that stop here and go nowhere that keeps me up at night. And what can we do to influence that? So back to the question of strategy. Yes, we implement this in 1,000 different ways, but the overall strategy is tracking individual students by major, what influences down to the level of if you skip Fridays, because maybe you don't see the value in them, or maybe you can't come and we don't offer Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Well, that's on us. We should have offered an opportunity where you could be there. But if you're skipping Fridays because who knows why, let's solve that problem. And it's not just Fridays. I mean, we're talking about Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but it's all of the reasons why students might not be successful. Dr. Fortune reports that if students engage in at least one curricular activity outside of class, the retention rate just goes through the roof. Not surprisingly, if you're engaged, if you feel like you belong here, if you have a group of people that you relate to, whether that's in a lab or it's in the writing center and I find my affinity there, or it's in Greek life, whatever that might be. So how do we, it's not so much can we run a report on all the activity that students are in, can we run a report that shows who are those students that aren't engaged in any? And how do we reach out to them and make sure that they are connected somehow? So super important.
In doing just your last comment, in doing that, looking at, so if they're not engaged, who's not engaged? Will there also be the question of why are they not engaged?
Absolutely, yes. And then who owns that, right? So it could be that in your class, you can connect them with something. It could be on student affairs. It could be on housing and residence life, right? We're all in this together. We each have a role to play. And it's not like one person can do it all. We need to crowdsource this. But I think to the president's point 2 months ago, you mentioned if every person reaches out to, 2 or 3, that covers all of our first-time, full-time students. So how do we do that systematically? It's not easy. If it was, we'd already be doing it. And people are busy. People are working, back to that duck. There's a lot of activity across campus. I know you've got other things on the agenda, but anything else? I do want to comment on QEP, back to the SAC COC.
Just really quickly, you said 100 Monday, Wednesday, Friday sections are scheduled for this spring. For comparison, what were they last spring?
I think our base was about 40-ish. And I say 100 because if we've got 909 students, first time, full time on campus in the dorms, this project 909, we're pre-registering them into Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Assuming they all take just 3 classes Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we need 2,727 seats, right? And then you divide that by about 25-ish seats per class, 30 seats per class. That gets you to 100. So base was, somewhere around 30 to 40 sections that we've historically offered. And then we need to get it to 100 plus just to meet that need. Now, some of those students are going to drop. They're going to say, I don't want that. That's their, we've got some student athletes that are living on campus. We're not registering them for Monday, Wednesday, Friday for conflict reasons. They got to travel. So.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, just wanted to share something that the registrar pulled for us just today. Monday, Wednesday, Friday registrations, 1,161. Only 25 students withdrew, which is about 2%, which is in line with Monday, Wednesday, and Tuesday, Thursday withdrawals.
You've heard me use this analogy before. I can't eat at cookout. I've done it once or twice. It's not that the food's bad for me. I know. It's like every time we talk, I talk about some kind of, burger joint, right? I need to eat better, salads, right? That menu is just insane. I can't process it. You got a car behind me in the line. I get flustered really. I just want the number 4, right? And I think psychology and ed theory would play out. The overabundance of choice can be overwhelming, right? Aldi leans into this. I don't need 700 different choices of cookies. Just give me 3 or 4. Again, bad food. Maybe salad, arugula versus romaine, right? Iceberg. Point being, we need to also put some rubber banding around what we're structuring for students so that they're not just overwhelmed. we get into these really deep conversations about, well, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday, 8 a.m., et cetera, because we swim in this. We're the fish in the water. We don't even know that we're in it, right? The students are coming in, and we probably presume that they understand all of our processes and the complexity of higher ed and all the steps it's going to take to get them to graduation. We need to peel that off as much as possible. Apologies to my site colleagues. I know I just butchered your discipline horribly, but we've got to put some boundaries and just make this easier. It's way too hard. And surprisingly, not every institution of higher ed is doing this work. We are on the vanguard. And yet we can still learn from others. And that's the whole point of the Ask You. So more details to come. Can I talk about QEP for just a second? We talked about SAC-COC and the question of, are we going to be SAC-COC? We just went through that process. It was a tremendous lift. I hope that we've got a while before we need to redo all of that. But the 100-day letter from the president of SAC-COC talked about the QEP as being optional. And we've already built this out. I mentioned this at Provost Council, and I want to make sure everybody has heard me on this. We are not stopping our QEP. If you don't measure it, you're not necessarily going to do it as well as you otherwise would. And we've got a great plan of experiential learning and career readiness. It's what we should be doing, even if SAC-COC wasn't looking over our shoulder. We decided on this collectively as the right work to do, and nothing changes just because we'll be held harmless if we don't. Who knows where SAC-COC and that QEP requirement is going to go, but we as an institution have an obligation to our students to prepare them for their careers after their time here with us. We're going to continue to do that. The budget is still there. The leadership team is still in place. If you'd like to be more involved in that, I welcome you to it. Talk with me or Crystal or others, and we will make sure that you have a seat at that table. If you've got other questions, happy to take them, but I'm mindful of the agenda. I know we've got some OHR content as well, so. Okay.
As far as retention for new faculty and existing faculty, one of the issues is in general, for like limited term, for instance, positions are posting all across the country essentially now. Do you have an estimation of when faculty positions will be posting to like renew a position, or because its stability is a concern as far as financials?
I don't want to, speak out of turn. It's as soon as possible. Okay. I'm not looking at March. I'm not looking at January. To your point, people need an idea of what's next. Right. And if we don't give that assurance, then they're going to make choices and we're going to lose great people. So my driving philosophy is sooner than later. Otherwise, good folks are going to be stepping out.
Thank you.
Thanks for asking. Appreciate it. Thank you all.
All right, thank you all very much. Appreciate that. Just a couple of things before we move on. We have, I just want to remind y'all, I've sent this in writing, but please continue. Any ideas? We're a group, and we work best when we all think together. So please continue to send me, and especially committee chairs, anything that we need to be tackling, we need to be working on, any questions or concerns we need to pass on, any problems that we can solve on ourselves. I think your first point of contact for that ought to be your committee chairs of whether it's your committee or a committee that's relevant. Please put that out there. Get in touch with me. I'd be especially interested in you have comments on things we should tackle as a Senate in a Senate-wide discussion. We're going to do that on an as-needed basis when it's appropriate. But I just wanted to make sure I verbally had a chance to remind you all about that. Briefly, before we progress, before you all kind of run off out at the end, we need a volunteer for the Parking Appeals Committee. So if we can't get one from the group, then I'll start picking on some relevant committees, but I want to give an opportunity for someone to step forward and get in touch. You don't have to do it right now, but get in touch with me in writing if you're interested in serving in that capacity. So that being said, I want to always give a chance to our committee chairs. Would any committee chairs just like to make any brief announcements or updates? All right. Undergraduate Programs Committee. We have Charlie, if you want to come down, and I'll remind you all, since this is our first curriculum item. For curriculum items, we are using our consent agenda, which saves us significant time in the meetings. So when this agenda is circulated earlier in the week, it's incumbent on us to take a look at it, see if we have any questions or concerns, share those with the committee chair. And if there are none, then we're just going to announce it and dive right into a vote. So because it's the first one, we'll just go ahead and we'll see if there's any, but otherwise we'll proceed to a vote.
Good enough. All of that information is back of the agenda. Are there any questions or concerns before we vote? Okay, all in favor? Any noes? Or abstentions? All right, thank you.
Thanks, Sean. All right, next up, we have same thing with now the chair of the Graduate Programs Committee. Kim, come on down.
We don't, today we only had two information items. We voted to approve two program deactivations, but those passed GPC, but they don't require SIP.
Thank you. Now we have no old business. We have new business. We have who probably just stepped out. Didn't realize how fast this section was going to move. We have OHR. If anyone needs 5, now would be a good time. Yes.
While we're waiting, we want to thank everyone for supporting and participating in Majors Fair, which was this week. We had increases of students from last year who came. It was a wonderful event. Every academic program was there, and your faculty and staff who were there were incredibly engaging and inspiring students. We're getting a lot of good feedback from students about that event. If you have suggestions about ways that it can be improved, you're certainly welcome to send those on to me or to advising so that we can work to improve that. We've already got a couple of suggestions, but maybe changing the day might help us even further. I know you mentioned about maybe shifting it to Thursday, which might be a possibility.
Yeah, the Majors Fair.
Yeah.
My thought, because I attended it, was that we have the building break from 11 to 12 when all students should be free. It would make sense to have it when all students are free. I think we'd have a lot more foot traffic.
Kind of traditionally held on Wednesday, but this is a great idea, so we may look to shift and get there. But I really appreciate the engagement from our academic programs. Really a good event. Students really appreciate it.
I'll skip ahead to the end. Anybody have any business they want to bring forward for general points of discussion?
I just had a request for the provost.
Okay.
I'm sorry, please, go ahead.
We're good.
Okay, good.
Following up on the new question.
Because I'm always talking to students, and actually this morning I was talking to my students. You know, we're doing public opinion, and there's no way to sort of explain public opinion, but actually to do and engage in it. And so I asked them, I do a little survey about, you know, all kinds of attitudes. But then I open up the floor to any questions, any concern they have, whether it is at the university, the course, whatever. And they did say that they have some suggestions for you. And I told them that I would convey them both to you and to the president. And so they did say that they would really like a better way to communicate with faculty, because they say that, you know, their faculty usually communicate well via email, but that they actually prefer other methods of communication because they're usually on social media and things like that. Not sure whether that's what faculty would be, what would be most effective, but they seem to think that, you know, the course then app or whatever it is inside course then is just not very user friendly, which then in the entire class unanimously said that they really do not like the new course then interface. That whatever course then looks like right now on their end, they just do not like it. That they thought that the previous version, which was still available like about 2 semesters ago, 1 semester ago, that they really thought that was actually very efficient, but that the new version with the drop-down menus and the accordions and whatever on their end, their words, it sucks.
About that is Brightspace. That's not us. That's been rolled out and they're not going back. But we can send some feedback to Brightspace on that if you want to send it my way.
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, and I'm just passing it along simply because I think that's and the other suggestion that they made was they said, is there a way for us, whenever we have a problem that we can't seem to solve for whatever the reason, just almost call like a helpline, centralized helpline or something like that to say, look, we have a problem. Whatever the problem.
Students or back?
Students.
So I'd say Momentum Center, that's the one stop, right? And then they can connect them to.
So the Momentum Center for
Momentum
them,
Center is the one-stop shop across the entire institution.
whatever their problem is, go to the Momentum Center and talk to them. Is that what you're saying? Okay, because I'm like, I'll go find out. I'll ask the provost and the president and, so.
It could be enrollment, it could be a hold, it could be fees, it could be library, whatever it is. Momentum is designed to be that one-stop shop and then connect them to the right place.
Okay. One student said that they have not had hot water in 4 or 6 weeks. No. On campus. In the villas.
Yeah, if they put in a ticket and it hasn't been responded to, I mean, HRL, Housing Residence Life. But again, just like I've done here, if there's anything, send it, I'll get them connected to the right spot.
Thank you. I'll get back to Mia.
All right, with that, we'll go ahead and move on to the Alicia from Human Resources. Thank you.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Those of you who don't know me, I'm Alicia Hargraves Bradford, and I'm currently the Office of Human Resources as the interim Chief Human Resources Officer. So I'm here to present to you about what to expect as it relates to our 2026 open enrollment period. All ready? No rotten tomatoes. There'll be some changes. Okay, so what we'll cover today, we'll go over some open enrollment information and the timeline to expect. We'll spend a little bit of time in 2026 benefits changes because there will be some changes this year. We'll go over a few benefits reminders. I just wanted to remind you all about the virtual benefits counselors. We'll get to that a little bit later. And then we'll go over the benefits enrollment portal information and who to contact should you have questions. And then we'll talk a little bit about the 2025, which is rolling into 2026 wellbeing program, and then USG as well. All right, so the open enrollment window is Monday, October the 27th, ends November the 7th. So it's a 2-week window. If you want to make any changes after you've made your elections, you're welcome to do so through the One USG Connect benefits portal until the end of the year. But that should not be used as a crutch. Everyone needs to log in to One USG Connect during this open enrollment window to make your elections. Okay. If you're enrolled in a healthcare coverage, you must certify your tobacco use and your spousal surcharge. If you don't actively go in there and just select those two things or certify for those two things, you will be automatically charged for the surcharge. And that's $150 a pop. And that's not refundable. So everyone make sure that we go in and make those elections. All clear on the open enrollment period? There will be a pop quiz at the end, so. Okay, so for active employees, the open enrollment session again begins on the 27th. There will be a Teams webinar that's new this year through the USG. That we did not have that benefit last year. So if you want to have a little bit more robust, in-depth overview into the benefits programs for 2026, I welcome you to hop onto one of these webinars that are offered through the USG. Some of this is not really relevant to all of you. Okay, so required actions. We all know about these surcharges. You need to go in and make sure that you actively attend to those or you will be charged how much? $150 per surcharge. So make sure you attend to that. For those of you who do flexible spending accounts, how many of you do flexible spending accounts? It's a terrific benefit, y'all. If you don't contribute to it, there's a benefit. There's a flexible spending account for dependent care. There's also a flexible spending account for health savings as well. And those are offered under all of our Blue Cross Blue Shield plans, of which we have 3, except for the Consumer Choice, which is an HSA. This FSA is tied to the other 2 Blue Cross Blue Shield plans, as well as Kaiser Permanente. So you have to go in there and actively enroll in that every year if you are an FSA. Okay. And of course, you want to review the 2026 plan designs. premium changes to make sure you are aware of the cost increases that are coming down the pike, okay? To make an educated decision. What I recommend to you is that during this open enrollment period, you will have an opportunity to review your beneficiaries. Please be sure you do that on a regular basis. The reason why is we cannot make those changes for you. So in the event that something happens that's unexpected, we have to follow what beneficiary is listed. There's been situations where an ex-spouse has been listed as a beneficiary and the person didn't think to go in there and make that change after that life change. Okay, so those things happen. So let's make sure we attend to that. You could make an appointment with a virtual benefits counselor if you'd like. You could do this throughout the year. For those of you who do not currently contribute to a voluntary retirement plan separate from ORP and TRS, I highly recommend reviewing what options you have available to you. We have two different plans, 403B and 457B. So take this time to really look into those plans and see what they look like. Okay. Shared sick leave pool. How many of you are enrolled? All right, so shared sick leave can only be enrolled once a year, and that's during the open enrollment period. So those of you who would like to receive this benefit in the event of an unfortunate leave situation, that shared sick leave pool is tied to that FMLA protected leave. So as you all know, family medical leave gives you 12 weeks of job protection. It does not give you 12 weeks of pay. So one must exhaust their PTO, paid time off, to remain on paid status in the event they are placed on family medical leave. What the shared sick leave pool does is benefit those employees who run out of PTO during that leave period. If you're not enrolled, you're not eligible for that benefit. So just keep that in mind. There will be communications coming from our office that has a link to the shared sick leave pool form. That's what you will use to enroll in that benefit. Any questions about that? Pretty good. Now for the plan changes. There will be an increase in premiums this year. The reason being is we've USG wide went about $8 million over what was initially allocated in the budget for 2025 benefits costs. So to offset those, our premiums a little bit. The employee rates are not unique. The employer also contributes to our benefits plans, and their cost increased as well. So they didn't exclude themselves from absorbing that overage. Okay. So good news for those of you who are Kaiser, your premiums are not going up, and you're getting, I always get that, and you're getting a new facility in Peachtree City soon. So that'll hopefully serve those who are in the Coweta area. But on average, over the premiums, and we'll go over what those premium increases are, it increased about 7.2%. Also, out of pocket maximums increased a little bit, and the health savings account employer-based contribution decreased by $50. Okay, so for consumer choice, as I said, the HSA employee match dropped $50. Okay, that's not FSA. Flexible spending accounts are different. That's 100%. Also, the out-of-pocket max family tiers under the consumer choice went up $8. But diagnostic breast cancer screenings still bypass the deductible and pay 100% of the plan. So that's a benefit. This is new, the pharmacy fee. So I want y'all to pay attention to this. So in May of this year, there was a House bill passed to kind of protect the variable rate of prescription costs, what they would cost the consumer. Okay, so by law, pharmacies must charge either the pricing for the national average drug acquisition cost, or NADAC, or your copay, whichever is cheaper. So for example, pharmacy costs can be volatile month to month. So one month you might go into your pharmacy and your prescription is $9. That pharmacy has a dispensing fee, say $10. So your cost is $19 that month. Good, they have to charge you that $19. Say the next month, that variable rate went up for that drug cost, and that drug cost is now $12. Dispensary rate still $10. So now the drug cost is $22. That pharmacy has to honor that copay, whatever is less, $20. So I'd say this to y'all to advocate for yourselves in the event that this does not happen for you, okay? Any questions over that? Good. Oh, this is important. For those employees, this has not always been the case. So during the open enrollment period for new employees, now they could roll on their disabled child dependent who's 26 or older onto their coverage. And new this year, employees who have not had the opportunity to do that in the past may do that during this open enrollment period. That might not apply to you, but it's important. Dental premiums have increased. I'll go over what those are specifically. Vision plan premiums will remain at the current rate, but there's a little bit cost differentials with the tier 1, tier 3, and all the things that are under that. I've not had a eye appointment in a very long time, so I'm not really closely tied to how that all works. I really should have. And good news, dependent care flexible spending account that we talked about earlier, that maximum has increased by $2,500. And of course, the decrease for health savings account matches decreased. Okay, there's no change to 100% employee paid premium, so that includes your legal fees, your vision plan, supplemental life, long and short-term disability, critical illness. Okay, so here's just some highlights, and I don't have much time to go over all of this, but this is why I encourage you all to do a virtual session through the USG, because they kind of really demonstrate what's offered under each plan. This is just a snapshot of what you can expect. So here's an example again. The new Georgia law changes how pharmacies are paid for dispensing medications, requiring pharmacies to be reimbursed using a transparent pricing structure. And so that just gives you an example of what I illustrated earlier. Kaiser, again, no plan changes, just a few highlights. No cost virtual care, convenient care while traveling, access to 26 and maybe 27 locations, and 700 doctors. And then you have healthy lifestyle programming and classes, just like you do here. Behavioral health and free resources. Delta Dental, I'm going to get to the benefits plan changes. There we go. So premium changes. Like I said, it trends from $7 for employees to $12, depending on which plan that you have. So this is a snapshot of what you can expect under each plan. Okay. And this is all in our comparison guides. So I don't have any with me, but there will be some of the benefits fair. So we're all going to the benefits fair, right? Hold for 20 seconds, please. Here's a snapshot. What's in bold is what's changed under each network as far as the out-of-pocket expenses. So again, under HSA, the out-of-pocket expenses on it. And a little bit pharmacy plan changes. I invite you all to kind of delve into that because it varies depending on the plan that you choose. Delta dental plan premiums will increase as well. $2 for the base and the high for an employee. Just because. Hold on. Hopefully they'll come back to them. Any questions so far? I'm almost done, y'all. Here we go. Okay, other important information. Preventative care is important. So preventative care should still be 100% covered through your whatever plan that you have. Okay, so those are your annual physicals and other appointments that you have on an annual basis. New cards will be issued from Anthem and Kaiser for new members or plan election changes that were made during open enrollment. So the cars that you currently have, if you're not making any changes, you won't get new parts. That's good. Request a new car by calling the call center. This is on here. I had to say it. If your spouse works on campus, only one of you should add the other to their plan. Not both of you. You all know that, right? Surcharge certification. We're doing this. All of us are actively going in to make sure that we certify, so we're not inadvertently charged $150, which is not refundable. It's important to note, for those of you, if you decide to switch your plan to the consumer choice and utilize the health savings account, but you currently have a flexible spending account, that flexible spending account has to be exhausted by the end of the year. Went through all of that. Went through shared sick leave pool. So portal changes, let's see. This is how to enroll. Okay, so everything is managed out of the USG portal. You'll connect to the one USG Connect.tv to manage your benefits. If you don't have the Alight mobile app, I highly recommend that you get that. It's a really great resource. You can look up doctors. You can look up plan changes, plan costs, pharmaceutical costs. It's a great resource to have. You do it quickly and while you're in transit. You can call the benefits call center Monday through Friday, anytime between 8. You're welcome to call HR. You're welcome to contact HR services. We will provide frontline tier 1 support, but in the event that you need more individual assistance, we will route you to the One USG Connect. So that's pretty regulated. We don't have access to all of your benefits information. Again, the virtual benefits counseling services will be open during open enrollment. There's a couple of dates and times that you can log on to take care of it. Benefits fairs, this is the USG, so sometimes they have other. We will have our benefits fair on the 22nd of October, starting at 10 to 2 p.m. There will be biometric screening again this year, starting at 9 a.m. New this year, we have a PSA, so that's prostate, whatever that's, it's a prostate exam test that we have now available. So I highly encourage all of you. Our Health is going to come and do a couple of classes for us, so there'll be some movement opportunities. So I highly recommend that you utilize that benefit. We'll have comparison guides. All of the USG vendors will be there to support as well with any questions that you have. Okay. And please be sure to utilize our well-being program that's managed out of Centra. These are employee assistance program. They have a wealth of resources online from individual webinars. They also have live chat 24/7 in the counseling session. All right, any questions before the pop quiz? Open enrollment period begins. October 27. I guess everyone's going to get one of these then. I have swag to give to those who participate. And it ends when?
November 7th.
November 7th. Benefits fair is October 7th. And you're all coming.
Class.
It starts at 10 a.m.
It's a Wednesday. That's a little big class.
Can you name 3 vendors that are going to be at the benefits fair?
Tanner.
Kaiser. Yes, and they're going to be doing our flu shots. No, excuse me, Kroger Health is going to be doing our flu shots this year, but they don't offer it for Kaiser members. The health services does for $25. Any questions for me? Yes, sir.
I didn't see the plan that I have, the updates for the pricing on the plan that I have. Does that mean that
some of that isn't done yet.
Do you have Kaiser?
I have Anthem, the POS plan or the PPO plan.
So you didn't see the premium increase for that?
I didn't, yeah, I don't see one on, but the board is weekly listed.
It's $7 for the. Is that what you're needing?
Yeah, I don't have the HMO though. It's called the POS plan.
Comprehensive care. That's a comprehensive care plan.
Okay, thanks.
So you said Kaiser premiums would not go up, but I see a $53 plus per family under Kaiser HMO. Does that mean it does go up?
The last, this
Oh.
is, I think that's just for, I'll have to circle back on that, because I'm not sure. 'Cause I thought it's that what they told us is that the rates would not go up. So I'll have to look into what that difference is, but I'll send it in.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Once?
Supposedly the staff council had a pile of questions, so I'll go and show you that.
They sure did. Let's answer all of them. That or it's Friday.
I do have one more question, if you don't mind. When it comes to dependent care, do you mean like children or parents? I know that.
Child or an adult that you're caring
And would that be for kindergarten? Is that private or state, right? Can you help me know how that works?
You mean as it applies to
Yeah,
the dependent care piece of the flexible spending
Yes.
account? So is any childcare service that you utilize.
Okay.
So even if they're in a private school, you could utilize that dependent care flex spending account to be reimbursed for any fees. If you pay for summer camps, for instance.
Okay.
You could use that to cover summer camps.
And it's up to 3,500 if you're married and you file separately, I think. It's 7K for babies.
It's 7,500 for just babies. We have family filing separate, it's 37. Whatever half 7,500 is for each person.
Perfect, thank you.
I highly recommend that. It's a great benefit. I've used it ever since. daughter was born. Any other questions? All right. Thank you. That concludes our presentation. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
All right, thank y'all. So I'll just briefly remind you to make sure that you're constantly going back and forth with the people you represent. So this information like this is as great as it is for all of us to hear this information. Our responsibility is to go and pass this information along to our constituents. I hope y'all are doing that. And always maintain those conversations so you're understanding what we need to be talking about next month or in future months with them and get that info to the committee chairs and to me. Does anybody have anything that you'd like to dive into now before we adjourn?
Just a quick, you asked for a question. Can we get that presentation so we can pass it on to people who request it? Or
Good
sending
question.
it?
I will be sending you some resources. I can't share the presentation per USG,
Oh,
but I'll send you where to go to get this information.
excellent.
All right, folks, we'll call it around and go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, how are you?
I'm still.